Welcome everybody, Chad Spalding here with Rob Arnold, the Master Distiller at TX Whiskey down in Fort Worth, Texas. Rob, I appreciate your time stopping in with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, a little awkward. Most of these are in person for me, but with the way times are right now during this period in our world, in our lives, we're going to have to do it via this Zoom broadcast. So, a little bit different. Still one-on-one. You and I will just talk through it.
Yeah, we're all used to Zoom now, so
it's kind of the new normal almost, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, first of all, Rob, the first question we always like to ask is, how did you get started in the spirits industry?
So our distillery is in Texas, so we make Texas whiskey, Texas bourbon, but I'm from Kentucky actually, so I didn't grow up in Texas. I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. I am a third generation member of the industry, so my uncle and my grandfather, my great uncles were all in the bourbon industry in Kentucky. Most of them were with Brown-Forman. So I knew about the industry growing up, but it was just kind of a normal thing. I didn't really grow up with this idea that I was going to go into the whiskey business, but I definitely knew about it. And I was actually started off going in college and grad school really pursuing medical research. So I did an undergraduate degree in microbiology. I then went to get my PhD in biochemistry here in Texas at the UT Medical Center in Dallas. And during that graduate school period, I started making beer at home, started home brewing. And then maybe I also made some whiskey at home. I don't know. You make your own assumption on that one, but I just through getting into the hobby of home brewing, I realized the overlap of how the science that I was already passionate about could mingle with this really cool, creative, artistic craft, and then that combined with learning more about my family and their background in the bourbon industry in Kentucky, just kind of like all the stars aligned, I guess, as far as me deciding to pivot away from medical research and towards the whiskey industry. But then I had to find a job in the industry. So through the grapevine, while I was still in grad school, I was introduced to the two original proprietors of TX Whiskey, Troy Robertson and Leonard Firestone. And we started talking over the course of a few different meetings and had very similar ideas for what Texas whiskey, Texas bourbon whiskey could be and how we would approach it. And so I left. I guess I dropped out of my PhD program, so I'm a grad school dropout, to join TX Whiskey. This was back in 2011. So I was the first employee. Joined about 9 years ago now, almost to the month.
Wow, that's a roundabout way of getting into the business, yeah. I guess, huh?
I know. People always think it was just predestined, given that I do have a lot of family ties to it, but no, it didn't go down that way. It was definitely a roundabout approach.
Yeah. So we, Independent Stave Company, you guys been with us, partners with us since the very beginning. Yep. I remember actually meeting Troy and Leonard when they came to Kentucky when they were dreaming this idea up. I think I may have given them a tour of our cooperage.
Yeah, there's still pictures of when they visited.
Yeah.
Into the cooperage and that was a few months before kind of my first conversations with them. But right. Yeah, day one, Independent Stave Company has been our cooper, our barrel supplier.
All right. With that being said, do you have a go-to ISC barrel at the moment? I know we've been doing a lot of experimentation recently, and you may have a new one versus what you used to use.
Yeah, I mean, we started off with the classic whiskey barrel, Char 3 Plus is what we've always requested. So just right in the middle of 3 and 4. We didn't used to specify seasoning of the wood and things like that. But over the years, we started working on trials with you guys, looking at the Cooper's Select 18-month season, the Cooper's Reserve 24-month air seasoned wood, and then different toast and char profiles. And we were able to develop a couple proprietary toast recipes with you guys through a multi-year experiment. And so now we mingle in a variety of barrels. Basically, the way our barrel program works is every single style of our straight whiskey, whether it's straight bourbon whiskey or straight rye whiskey, gets put into 3 different barrel types. They're all Cooper Select, so all 18-month air seasoned wood. And then one of those barrel types would be a char 3+, and then the other 2 are toasted prior to a char 1, and they're different toast recipes. Now, I don't know if I have a favorite among those 3, but especially those 2 proprietary toasts that we did finally land on. There were 4, 5, 6 that we looked at originally and kind of narrowed it down to those 2. So big fan though in the air seasoned wood. It's a very noticeable difference, from early on, and really had a lot of fun exploring what I guess you could call them somewhat unique to the industry, at least historically. These toasted, lightly charred barrels. It's been, the flavors we get are distinct and unique, but really nice.
Yeah, that's one of the barrels that you guys were in early on, and in experimentation of these types of barrels, and people are starting to catch on. They're not just doing the char 3, char 4 barrels anymore, where they're, is one better than the other? Maybe not, depends on who you ask, but they are different for sure.
Yeah, the word better in this industry is, I don't like to use it. Different's a good word. Different, and that's the whole goal with having 3 barrel types in our policy and our program for every style. It's not that we think one is better than the other. It's not that we're trying to, narrow it down to 2 or just 1 eventually. It's that we want some diversity in each one of our styles delivered from the barrel, because they are different.
And to have that to blend at the end of the run.
Yeah, and that's why we're lucky. We've got a really talented blender, Ali Ochoa at TX Whiskey, who has a master's degree in food chemistry and sensory science, and a very talented blender. So I get to introduce all the flavor diversity and variety, and then she has to figure out how to handle all of that and make sure we have consistent and high quality products.
Gotcha. All right, moving right on. Do you have a favorite cocktail, or do you drink your TX whiskey or bourbon neat on the rocks? What's your go-to drink there?
I'm usually with whiskey, I'm going to drink it neat or with some water or ice. I mean, Texas is hot, man. Like, I don't care what a connoisseur or enthusiast might say. There's 105 degrees in Texas. A lot of times a room temperature bourbon just isn't that appealing. So I don't have any problem with ice. I don't like to down it with ice, but chill it and let the dilution kind of open up some flavors. We do have, I do like old fashions. We've got a great pecan old fashioned that our mixologist here at TX, Jason Shelley, puts together. That's delicious and dangerously smooth for what it packs. That's my wife's much more into cocktails than I am. So whatever she kind of makes up on any given night, I'll probably try that.
Dabble into it. All right. So we talked a little bit about the different types of barrels. You have, it's probably going to be hard to say, you have a crystal ball for the TX brand, in the next 4 to 5, 6, 8, 10 years down the road.
I think TX blended whiskey, which was our first flagship whiskey, that will stay, I think, very consistent from a flavor standpoint. for forever at this point, for the foreseeable 5, 10, 20 years. I see our bourbon evolving for sure. I mean, part of that is because we did just build a new distillery a couple years ago and went from a pot still operation to a beer still operation. So, the beer column still with the doubler, it just makes a very different whiskey in general. The distillate's very different. So we've got that driving some new flavors in our bourbon, as well as the new barrel program that I talked about. It really won't, those barrels that we now utilize won't turn for another couple years, 4 years old. So, I think that we'll keep seeing more diversity and, continuation of quality for our bourbons. But yeah, there's going to be some evolution to the flavor, and that at first kind of worried me, but I think in the end, we're still young and we shouldn't assume that we had it figured out day one, and continue to try to tap into new flavors and high quality flavors and kind of see where it goes. I mean, we like to use science as much as we can here to maintain consistency and avoid problems, but once it goes into the barrel, you're a little bit, you gotta be hands off at that point. You can do a couple things here and there, but really it's more about just waiting, tasting and waiting and seeing what happens. And I mean, everything we've tasted and that's coming online in the next couple of years, we're super excited about. And we haven't released it yet, but the TX rye whiskey as well, which will follow the same barrel program that we talked about, and loving that as well. So
perfect. Lots of good stuff coming down the pipe, huh?
Yeah.
All right, so this is a two-part question. The last question here, Rob. First part: what is your most? What do you like most about being the master distiller at TX Whiskey? And if you weren't at that job, what would your dream job be?
Yeah, I mean, what I like about being a distiller is I said it earlier, but it's connecting science and creativity, science and art, however you want to put that. But it's being able to use both of those techniques, both of those crafts, to create something that people taste and enjoy. You get to see their reaction, and you kind of get to taste your science, taste your craft, and that's pretty unique. It's a pretty unique job to be able to do something like that. What job would I have if it wasn't a distiller? It'd be astronaut, something like that.
There you go.
I don't know. I really can't even tell you what I do. I will say, like, I am going back to school now for PhD in plant breeding, and it's more of a side project looking at how corn impacts whiskey flavor. And I do really enjoy the science of plant breeding. So, maybe if I wasn't a master distiller, and if NASA never calls me to be an astronaut, then maybe I would go into plant breeding. But I'm pretty happy making whiskey. So.
I got you. Well, that's perfect. Rob, once again, ISC, we appreciate your partnership with you and the work we do with you and your team and the whole team at TX Whiskey, and we look forward to the future and working with you guys more and more.
Yeah, likewise. It's been a fun ride, about a decade now. Looking forward to many decades more.
All right, good deal. Have a good day, Rob.
Get Chad.